Thank you so much, Claire. Good morning or good afternoon, depending on where you are. I'm extremely happy to be able to share some insights on behalf of the Ministry of Health, Welfare and Sport. And for doing that, let me share my screen for a presentation I prepared. We take it here. Oh, no.
Yeah.
So timing is really excellent of this event as we are within the Ministry of Health, Welfare and Sport finalizing a policy document on securing the supply of medical products, including pharmaceutical products for the long term, independent of a crisis situation. And now, obviously, international cooperation and strategic partnerships are important in this context, including the relationships with China. Now, what do we do here in China? We can facilitate the process for you getting from contact to contract. There's only one letter difference, but of course, you know better than I do that there's a whole world in between, crossing this entire value chain from fundamental research to marketing. The thematic focus of the Ministry of Health, Welfare and Sport is what you see on this slide. And obviously for you, the most interesting in this context is the theme of medicines and medical technology. Now, how do we do this? We can provide you with information on the pharmaceutical and biopharmaceutical markets. We can help you in getting in contact with partners and organizing and co-organizing events. And this one is, of course, an excellent example of that. Obviously, we do not do that alone from Beijing, where I am based, also with our colleagues, obviously in Shanghai, but also in other cities where we have consulates general or Netherlands business support offices as represented on this map. And obviously as well with representatives of the World Health Organization in China, specifically here in Beijing, the EU delegation and a lot of health and care partners, both in the Netherlands and in China. Now, let me show you some key figures and indicators, of which I find this one is a revealing one. Looking at the leading causes of death and disability adjusted life years. You see here two tables, one of 1990 and the second one of 2017. And what is striking is that the NCDs have become the main cause of disease burden in China.
We don't see it.
Interrupt you, but you have to press to the next slide. Yeah.
Okay, I see the slide in front of me. Do you see a slide with two tables?
No.
No, there could be a delay in the sharing.
Okay. Now do you see it?
No.
No. Okay.
You see the presenter screen. Perhaps there's a split screen for you.
So I stop share and share
Yes.
again.
Yeah.
So that it works.
Yeah. Stop share and share again. That helps.
Thank you,
Sorry
Luc.
for that.
Otherwise, we can also help to do the presentation for you.
No, this doesn't work. Can you see it now?
We can see the slide, but not yet the second one.
Okay. Okay. Maybe you can. You have it in front of you. It's maybe easier if you can.
Yes, Floris will pull it up right now.
Sorry for this.
No worries.
No? Do you want me to try again?
Yes, you can continue now.
I don't know whether you see it, but I don't see it.
We are at the third slide on key figures and indicators, 25 leading causes of dailies.
Okay, I don't see that. I don't know why. Okay, I'll do it without seeing the own presentation. Then I guess, or let me do it this way. I'll do it this way. Sorry for this. So here you see indeed, as Claire rightly pointed out, the leading causes of death and disability adjusted life years. The two tables that you should see now, one from 1990 and the second one in 2017. And what is clear from this picture is that the NCDs are the main cause of disease burden to a large degree, obviously, to be explained through the aging process in here in China. But the interesting thing that I wanted to highlight that this picture could very well also have been to a great extent a picture from the Netherlands. So it is important for you to look at this picture of 2017. It's almost the same now in 2021 when you're active in R&D or in biopharma products. Now, if we indeed now move on to the pharma on the next slide, the pharma sector general picture. I hope you'll see this. What is interesting here to note is that the government invested a lot in modernizing the industry and developing innovative drugs in China. What you can see here in the green rectangular that I made in this table is that there's still quite a gap between the US and China. The most interesting thing, obviously, is to look at the trend. And there you see that China has doubled its value share from 2015, as you see in the right-hand column, to now 2020. A lot of developments are going on in oncology, for instance, and I'll get back to this in a moment. So now, if we take a closer look at the ecosystem on the next slide, you can see that there's very strong industry and R&D ecosystem and very strong associations associated with it. But I'm showing this particular slide, especially to show you that the VC and the private equity funds have been increasing by a factor 15 between 2015 and 2020. You may not be so much impressed by the 14% of the R&D pipeline globally, but then again, if you look at the trend, we can see that there's a rapid increase here as well. Now, taking further down to the biopharma on the next slide, what is interesting to note here is that the compound annual growth rate in the biopharma is almost at 20%. Compared to the overall picture of 8.2% of the entire sector. So this is very interesting for you who are interested in the biopharma sector in China. And as I just said, looking at the licensing in and licensing out, what I just highlighted and the developments in oncology are very interesting indeed. Now, obviously, regulation is a very important subject, and this brings us to the next slide, where you see that ever since 2015, what I just said is that the government has been encouraging largely innovative drug development in China, aligning the national requirements to international standards, for instance, by joining ICH in 2017, by stimulating fast approval tracks. So if you've made up your minds and are thinking of making up their minds in doing business in and with China, might be of interest to you in looking at different roadmaps to do business in and with China. Obviously, the slide can be shared with you, and if you have further questions, which I can very well mention also on this particular slide, don't hesitate, of course, to reach out to us after the webinar. So you see that overall there are 3 major roadmaps. The first one is really about acting, for which you would need an import license, your distributor or your agent in China, which means that obviously you would be very much dependent also on your distributor or your agent in China. The second roadmap is more about setting up a legal entity within China. So therefore, you would work with a CMO or CDMO in China through a domestic license, which would have the advantage of lowering barriers of doing business in and with China. And the third one is setting up your own manufacturer, which is more capital intensive, takes more time as well, but it has the advantage of lowering your production costs and of having the advantage to develop localized after service capabilities and having the advantage of what local governments have to offer to you when doing business in China. So let me finish off by allowing me some practical tips on following slides. Obviously, the first one, do your homework, allow me to put it that way, especially on what we just highlighted, the policy and regulatory requirements in China that are fastly evolving, and obviously in this particular field, it's extremely important to be up to date to especially the regulatory requirements. Of course, we can assist you and also to connect you to various companies who are specialized in this particular field. Be present on the market. The localization is what I highlighted in a previous slide as well. Possibilities of setting up physical establishments, which to the advantage of what the governments have to do, be it in funding support, investments, reducing market barriers, for instance. So if you're interested in participating in government procurement. Really, in conclusion, what can we do for you? As we all highlighted, in these COVID times, I think it's all more important that we assist you in doing research information, and the more focused your research for information is, the better it is for us as well to help you effectively as possible. Now, some already have business or contacts in China and connect or reconnect you with partners, be it potential partners, also visiting them as we can travel within China, be it from Beijing or Shanghai, the other cities where we are presented. And we can also, of course, represent your companies, your organizations in a lot of presentations that we various places in China, conferences, in expos, and what have you. So I guess the main question then for now is, what do you want to do and what do you want us to do, how and when? This gives me thank you for listening to the presentation. Here on the right hand, on the last slide, you see our Prime Minister Rutte with State Councillor Wang, who represented his President Xi Jinping last weekend during the G20 reconnecting. So we're looking forward to reconnect relationships and with China. Thank you very much. Back to you.
Thank you so much, Nico. Thank you for your already quite comprehensive overview of the market here in China, but also how we can be of help to any Dutch company willing to enter into China. So thank you for sharing your expertise. And for all the participants, if you have any questions, you can already start to write them in the chat box. And for any new people joining us now, it would be very helpful if you can change